All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Bree Bro. I'm the regional organizing manager for North Carolina with All on the Line. This is the Fair Districts on the Line postcard program launch. And we are going to go ahead and get started. Let's see. Okay. Can everyone see their screen okay? Feel free to unmute or put in the chat if you need me to stop at any point. For folks that might be new here, All on the Line is a 501c4 advocacy organization. Our mission is to raise awareness about gerrymandering and how it harms policymaking. We create and encourage activities to defend democratic ideals and increase grassroots engagement in redistricting. The agenda for our program tonight is we are going to first invite folks, if you're here with us live, to put your name in the chat. We'd love to know also where you're joining from. And if you are part of an organization or a group that you're representing, feel free to put that in the chat as well, so we know who's in the space with us. We're going to go over kind of why we're here, what this program is all about. We're also going to, including in that, we're going to do a little bit of a review of the redistricting landscape in North Carolina, because it matters. It'll provide context for the postcard program. And if you are having an event or a party, you might want to be able to refer back to this to explain kind of like what is the purpose of this particular postcard program. So we'll do a little review and then we'll go over the postcards themselves, the program overview, how it works, how to request postcards, and then happy to answer any questions that folks might have. So thanks. If you are coming in late, we'd love for you to just put your, not late, but if you're just coming in, love for you to put your name and where you're joining from and any organizational affiliation you have in the chat. And also feel free to, unmute if you have questions as I'm going along, or you need to stop me or put questions in the chat. Although I tend to not be able to check the chat while I'm talking because I can't walk and chew gum at the same time. So you can raise your hand though, that I will probably see that. So I wanted to start with just a quick redistricting recap of kind of where we stand right now so that y'all have context for this campaign. We are, just some definitions to make sure that we all are kind of like on the same page. We are in a representative democracy, and we elect representatives to create laws and policies from districts. We divide our voting population equally into districts so that the voters from that district can elect their representatives. Having an equal number of people in each district theoretically results in each person's vote carrying the same amount of weight. And we'll see in a minute how, gerrymandering is used to diminish the voting power of certain populations. The collection of districts that creates a map, and we're going to specifically focus on our congressional map in this conversation, because that's what the postcard program is kind of geared towards, and really geared towards connecting our districts and the importance of having fair districts with the North Carolina Supreme Court, which is really the only check that we have on the legislators who draw our district maps. Population, we know, is dynamic over time, right? So people are born, people die, people move. So every 10 years after the census, our voting districts are redrawn to rebalance the districts. And this is called redistricting. Different states have different processes for this. In North Carolina, our districts are drawn by the legislature, and the political party that controls the General Assembly controls the process of redistricting. While they are theoretically can take input from the other party, they're not required to do so. And in North Carolina, the governor cannot veto the map. So we don't have that particular check on our maps. To be very, very clear, redistricting is a normal required constitutional process that happens every 10 years. And it is a good thing that helps to allow voters to choose their representatives. Gerrymandering is when people use that process to basically cheat to gain power for one party or another. And they do that by manipulating the district boundaries to ensure that one party or the other can have more representation. What that looks like is, this is an example of a population of let's say, an area, a state, and we have triangles and squares. We see the yellow lines sort of form 5 districts, and those districts are likely to elect. There are 20 triangles and 30 squares. That's 40% triangles, 60% squares. We're likely to elect 2 out of 5 triangles and 3 out of 5 squares. That's pretty proportional to the number of voters that are in this state, right? If you draw the lines differently, and in this example, you can crack apart the triangles, and just by drawing the lines differently, we still have the same number of triangles, but now we have districts that are every single district is going to elect squares. So we're going to elect 5 squares, even though they're still only 60%, 100%, only 60% of the population, and none of these districts will elect triangles, so triangles will have 0 representation. A different way that manipulating the lines can look is if you pack the squares into 2 districts. So there's 2 districts that are packed full of squares. They're definitely going to elect squares, but the triangles are going to get 3 representatives, even though they are still only 40% of the population. So it's different ways of drawing the lines can really impact who can get elected, what the representation for a particular state looks like. The impacts of this are, it's really a crisis for democracy when gerrymandering is done. You get politicians who know that they are going to be going to win in the general election. So you get more extremist views and extremist politicians running in primaries, winning primaries, and then they're virtually guaranteed to win in the general election. Makes it very hard to hold them accountable. A durable gerrymander makes it nearly impossible for the opposite party to compete in some cases. We also tend to get legislation that is not as reflective of voters' priorities. In North Carolina, for example, there's overwhelming support for Medicaid expansion. We don't have Medicaid expansion because we have a gerrymandered legislature. It also, when you have gerrymandering, it dilutes minority votes. It splits communities. It means that, people who have shared interests are not able to elect a representative who represents them as a whole, and might not have, they will have less power to be able to lobby for their shared interests. So there's a lot of really bad outcomes of gerrymandering. The sort of where we are, the timeline right now, and then we'll get on to the what the postcard program is all about. But so this is the recent redistricting timeline that we had over the past year, 2021. We had a redistricting process. The Republicans were in, and still are in, have a majority in the legislature, so they controlled this process. That means that they effectively drew the maps. They took very little input from Democrats. They did have some public input opportunities, but they were very difficult for the public to access. And even with that, a lot of people still came out and gave input. A lot of people gave input online, and that input was largely ignored in the maps that were passed. We got very gerrymandered maps, all 3 levels: the congressional map, the Senate, North Carolina Senate, and North Carolina House maps were very gerrymandered. The maps were challenged in court. And ultimately, this North Carolina Superior Court that heard the case agreed that they were extremely gerrymandered, but basically said that they couldn't do anything about it. And that was sent up to it was appealed to the Supreme Court of North Carolina. The Supreme Court of North Carolina found that the maps were so gerrymandered that they violated North Carolinians' constitutional rights, and sent the maps back to the legislature to be fixed, to try again, basically. There was some back and forth. In the legislative maps, our House maps, actually the House and the House Democrats and Republicans kind of negotiated, and we got a pretty fair map out of that process. The Senate map's still very gerrymandered, and the congressional map, they did not take any input from Democrats. They did not negotiate that map. It was still too gerrymandered. It was not accepted by the court, and ultimately the Supreme Court appointed a special master to draw the congressional map. So we have a congressional map that was drawn by special masters appointed by the court. That is an interim map that will likely be redrawn after the 2022 election. It is in place for 2022. But it will likely be redrawn after the 2022 election. And depending on which party controls the legislature, that map will be redrawn. And if it is very gerrymandered again, it will likely be litigated, and it could end up in the Supreme Court. So it is very important that who we elect to the Supreme Court will really impact the fairness of our maps going forward, and whether there are, people who understand North Carolinians' constitutional rights to fair maps. This is what the map looked like before the initial map that was passed by the legislature. And I'm showing you this because we are concentrating in our postcard campaign on voters in Guilford County. This is the map that was initially passed. And if you look, you'll notice that there are 3 areas, and there's actually 4 areas of the state, but 3 that you can really see here, where so Wake County, Mecklenburg County, and Guilford County are major population centers in North Carolina. They have a lot of Democratic voters, a lot of voters of color, and those areas were cracked apart. Also, the Sandhills were cracked, so that they're in 3 different congressional districts. So focusing on Guilford County, that's what we're talking about, because that's what the postcard campaign focuses on. You notice that the Guilford County is parts of each, it's split into 3, and each part is then combined with areas of the state that are very different from Guilford County. So Guilford County is a metropolitan, a suburban county. And then in each instance, each part that's cracked apart is paired with areas that are very rural. Those areas have very different interests. And what that ultimately means is that voters in Guilford County, their voices and what they need from a representative, and their voices as voters, are drowned out by people in other parts of the state with very different interests. So it also means that people in Guilford County would have 3 different representatives whenever they needed to lobby, or there's anything that they needed representation on from the federal government. They don't have a unified voice in the federal government, and they have 3 different reps that they have to go to for whatever issue might be coming up. So it really diminishes the power of the voters in Guilford County having a map like this, where their votes are divided. This is the map that the special master drew. So this is the current map that we have. And you'll notice that Guilford County is whole. There's no reason to split Guilford County for population reasons. You can fit all of Guilford County in one congressional district. It was also, I would like to point out, something that people came out. There was not a hearing in Guilford County, but people drove to hearings in Forsyth County and in Alamance County and asked to have the triad and Guilford County specifically kept whole, because Guilford has a long history, Greensboro has a long history of being gerrymandered. And so people came out, and in this map that the special masters drew, Guilford is whole, which means that, you know, their vote, the power of their vote, people in Guilford County, their votes are the power of their vote is much stronger in terms of electing the representative that represents them. That is a lot, right? I mean, it's pretty complicated, and it's a lot to explain and understand, but it's very important. And the reason that voters in Guilford County have unified representation, are going to have unified representation in Congress, is because the Supreme Court ruled that extreme partisan gerrymandering diminishes the rights of voters and violates our constitutional rights. So we have created a postcard program designed to really just, the purpose of this program is to educate voters on how redistricting affects their voting power and their representation, and provide some context for the North Carolina Supreme Court elections. We hope that this program will also inspire voters to get curious about how redistricting affects them, what happened in 2021 and 2022, and how the Supreme Court factors into fair representation. And then we want to encourage them to research what's on their ballot, understand what's on their ballot, and make a plan to vote. So that is the purpose and the guiding kind of principle behind this postcard program. It is definitely a little, something we're experimenting with, but I think that this will be really informative for people who get these postcards, and hopefully it will inspire some curiosity and inspire folks to make a point of getting out and voting and to researching what's on their ballot. So this is what the postcards look like. On the left is the front of the postcard. We actually decided to show people the districts, and we've got captions that explain that this is the maps that were overturned, and then the current voting maps, trying to give folks useful, relevant information that they can then use to do their research on how they're going to vote, who they're going to vote for, make sure that they vote. And then on the back, we explain kind of as much as we can clearly, what's at stake. And the invitation here is for volunteers to send these postcards. You'll address the postcard, and these are actually 6 by 9 inch postcards. So there is some white space, and we just are asking folks to include a personal note, personalize these, include personal little note or some additional information about where to find their sample ballot. We'll send you some suggested language for personalizing these, and then just address them and stamp them and send them on. We've got 5,000 of these total, so as much as we can get sent out in the next month is great, and we'll depending on what the response is like, we'll figure out how to make sure we get these to voters. But the process for this is I've got just a Google form here. I'm going to drop it in the chat, and I will send a follow-up email. If you were on the LTE call yesterday, you're still waiting for your follow-up email, and I will get that out as well. This is a Google form where you can request postcards. It's really simple. You'll fill out that form, let me know how many postcards you want. I asked for some additional information, like if you're having an event, just so I have a sense of your timing and how many people are going to be writing postcards. And if you need stamps, you can request stamps. If you're able to provide stamps, that will help us get these postcards out to more people. We do have a budget. We don't want stamps to be a barrier for folks who want to write postcards, but if you can provide stamps or you have volunteers who can provide stamps, that's definitely helpful. But you can indicate whether you want us to send you stamps or provide stamps in the form, and then you'll just let me know how many postcards you want, where to send them, and I will send you the postcards and the instructions. And we're just asking folks to try to write the postcards and get them out by October 20th, which is the first day of early voting. That's what we're asking folks to do. If there are a few that go out later than that, that'll be okay. We'll just remove anybody who's already voted from our list. So with that, I want to stop and see what questions y'all have.
Hey, Bree, I have a question. On the 6x9 size, is that still a postcard stamp?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And I just dropped a link to, I forgot the O, but there's a link to order. If you want to order stamps from the Post USPS, you can order them, and they're 44 cents a stamp.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Any other questions about postcards? Does anyone definitely, I know there's a couple people on here who have said that they're interested. Does anyone definitely plan to do postcards or have a postcard event that you're thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, Indivisible Guilford County is in for probably 2,000.
Awesome. Great. Yay. Thanks, Indivisible Guilford County. Y'all don't have to all do 2,000. Don't let that intimidate you. Indivisible Guilford County.
Yeah, we got a lot of people. We got a lot of people writing.
Awesome. Yep, great. Constance, thank you. Indivisible Highlands is in for 200 and they've got stamps. That's great. We would love to have any help with this we can get. If you have questions, that's great. Julia, having friends over for a party, I think that's like a super fun thing to do for elections. That's actually one of the very first things I ever did to like engaging in voter contact in elections was letter writing. So that's awesome. And yeah, we're excited about this. I mean, I feel like there's so much that we can talk about in the election, and just I'm a big fan of giving people like useful information and empowering them to, you know, learn about what's on their ballot. Okay. Any questions about how to get postcards? Pretty straightforward. Okay. Well, I appreciate you all being here and your interest in reaching out to voters through the postcard program. If you do have the Google form, I'll drop it in the chat again. I will also send an email follow-up with the link to this recording to everybody who registered. Postcard, the Google form is here. I just dropped it in the chat. You should be able to click on that. Has anyone clicked on it and see if it works?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. I'm in Durham, North Carolina, and I could sign up for at least 300 or 400
Awesome.
postcards. I just took a while to figure out how to answer you.
Oh, good. That's great. Awesome.
Okay.
Yay. Thank you. I'm also in Durham, so I'll probably just, if you fill out the form, I'll probably coordinate with you to just drop them off or let you pick them up somewhere.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. I'm going to put this recording on YouTube and include the form underneath it. So if you're watching on YouTube later, you can just click on the form, which will be under the video. can addresses be provided if friends want to fill out more? So yeah, when we send you the postcards, we'll send you the list of people to address them to, and we may actually just print you the the addresses on address labels. So we will, if you let me know how many postcards you want, we'll send you the postcards, the addresses. Thank you for raising that. I meant to say that the addresses that you're going to write the postcards to, and then if you need stamps, we'll include stamps as well. So yeah, you can share this form if you know people who might want to do some postcards. Share the form. People, you're welcome to ask, if people only want to do 10 or 50 or 100, that's great. We'll take it.
Thank you very much. And we will not need stamps, but I may have more people that could participate.
That's great. Yep. Just share the link. I made the form so I could keep track, but if y'all, you'll have my email. You're also welcome to reach out to me directly. If you have questions or anything, feel free to email me.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Constance, see your hand. Did you have a question? Okay. I will, so I think that that's everything. If anyone has questions or, you're welcome to reach out. I will send a follow-up email with the link to the form. And happy postcarding. Thank you all very much for engaging on this. We're very excited to get this info out to voters in Guilford County. The postcards can be mailed from anywhere in the state. Yes, the postcards can be mailed from out of state. So if there are folks, who want to engage in North Carolina who are out of state, they can do that as well. Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all. Have a good night.